Well, greetings and welcome to week 24 of the story. We're looking at the book of Revelation today, and we are on chapter 31 of the story. We've been on a long journey, a really, I think, good journey between Genesis and Revelation this last year, starting in September. And we're ending with the book of Revelation, which was written presumably by the Apostle John, the disciple John, from one of Jesus as one of Jesus' disciples, and he was exiled to the island of Patmos for his faith and his proclaiming in Jesus. It was there that he had this strange and glorious vision of Jesus appearing to him with a revelation kind of about the end of time. In the midst of big persecution, Jesus appears to him and says, hang in there, hang in there. This persecution will not be the final chapter of this story. John saw someone like a son of man, is what he says, dressed in a priestly robe and ready to judge. Jesus presents himself to John as the resurrected one who has authority over life and death. And part of the main, very interesting, important parts of Revelation are in chapters 2 and 3, where Jesus, through John, has some words for the 7 churches of Revelation. These 7 churches, Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea, are all located in kind of a circle in what is today modern-day Turkey. And all of them were trying to figure out how to live their faith in Jesus in a culture that was very foreign and sometimes even very hostile to their faith. Some were facing external persecution. Others were having internal conflict. Some of them were feeling pretty satisfied and smug with themselves. And the message to the 7 churches in Revelation 2 and 3, that's the main part of Revelation to read. There's only a little bit of it for 3 churches in chapter 31 of our story book. But if you read through chapters 2 and 3, you really get an insight into the word of Jesus through the prophet John in this apocalyptic vision that he has for these 7 churches. The messages are warnings to some and hope to others. Things that Jesus says through John, are maybe not quite as they appear. Rome is not in control. Rome is not in control. And by getting a glimpse of the throne room of heaven where God sits in there with God's unimaginable splendor and beauty, John sees, you know what? In the end, God wins. In the end, not everything that happens until then is God's will, but in the end, God is in control, and God will return to establish his reign. So, Revelation, if you read through chapter 31, is a book that's apocalyptic. The style of biblical literature that appears during time of persecution. There's sometimes really bizarre pictures and metaphors, some that are based on Old Testament stories that the original hearers would understand. Today we have nothing to compare to apocalyptic literature of the New Testament or Old Testament, and so we try in our Western minds to kind of figure it out. Apocalyptic literature is not to be figured out. It is to be listened about how God will triumph. All the people who have been doing terrible things to you, in the end, they get their due. Okay? God will eventually reign over all. The purpose of Revelation is to give that message in the midst of persecution. Put your head up, keep your back straight, walk forward, stay faithful, because God will be with you, and in the end, God will bring all things under God's control and will judge the good and the bad. So hang in there. Revelation is not to be read to try to predict the end of the world based on current 21st century events. It's to provide hope and warning to Christians living in a Roman world under Roman rule, under Roman persecution at the end of the first century. So at the end of Revelation, John describes there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. The old has passed away, as a way of saying, this stuff you're going through right now, it's going to end. And at that time, Jesus will bring you unto himself. Many themes come at God's redemptive story finds its culmination when all things will be made new. The water of life flows from the throne of God. The tree of life bears much fruit. All are invited to partake. The place for Christians in God's upper story will merge with our lower story wanderings, and it's there that we will experience the presence of God that will last forever. When we understand the genre, apocalyptic literature of the book of Revelation, it can provide hope for us today, same as it did back at the end of the first century, when we today try to follow Jesus in the same way in the midst of a very difficult culture. John just says, hang in there, buddy. Hang in there. Don't give up. Keep on keeping on. That's what the book of Revelation ends the Bible with. That proclamation, Jesus will return, wrongs will be righted. People who done you bad, you think they've escaped all the way through life. In the end, God wins. God will have God's justice. So that's the promise, that's the hope of the book of Revelation. So listen to the sermon on Sunday morning, read through chapter 31 of the story, especially the first parts, and then go to Revelation. Read chapters 2 and 3, the word to the churches. And I'll have a little more on Monday with the word of the church of Ephesus and how John says, don't abandon your first love. That's what will be the more to the story on Monday. So have a good weekend, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, you take care. Bye-bye.